Welcome to Cinema Chop Shop. Watch, chop, retrofit.
So for the past, 3 or 4 weeks, I've been beset by a rabbit in my garden. And if it were a wild rabbit, this would be much more palatable to me, but it's the neighbor's rabbit.
Oh, it's a pet rabbit.
Yeah. And at first it was just chilling out in the garden, and I'm like, oh, it's fine. It's like this white rabbit.
Yeah.
It's like, Alice in Wonderland kind of shit. But then he ate an entire row of beans.
Oh, fuck that.
He ate another entire row of beans that I planted to replace the other beans. And this morning he ate all of my strawberry plants.
No,
and I got a trap out there, and this motherfucker was lounging right at the trap, reaching inside of it without walking inside of it, picking green beans and strawberries out of the trap.
He was like, fool, you think he's been in the trap before.
Might have earned those green
Joey,
beans.
let me tell you what you do. You pull the old George ruse on him, where you name him George, and then you very roughly handle him,
yes.
and then he will eventually go away.
Well, I've only got my hands on him once, and he squirmed out of my hands, and I had to let him go because I thought that I was going to break his leg by the way that I had grabbed him, and I didn't want to hurt him. You know what I mean? So ever since then, he won't let me get within a few steps of him. So,
but this is not an Of Mice and Men podcast,
right? And also, that's a misconception. He didn't name the rabbit George. George was his counterpart. Lenny was the big dumb oaf, and George was his counterpart, and it was Looney Tunes cartoons that later had the Lenny type. You'd be like, call him George, but that was a riff on Of Mice and Men. I'm disappointed.
Oh no, I knew that. That's what I was referencing. I was referencing Looney Tunes.
Okay.
I didn't even know about
it's
them.
not an
I
Of Mice
actually
and
didn't
Men
even know
podcast.
the Of Mice and Men thing. I've never read the book, so I was actually referencing Looney Tunes.
Well, it's really
His
just
name is
it's really
George,
just
and
a
I love
roll
him
of the
and
dice,
squeeze
right?
him and-
It is a roll of the dice.
Yeah.
God, speaking of dice, this is Cinema Chop Shop. We're a movie podcast where we talk about movies
Are
and
you still
whatnot.
disappointed?
And I am your host, Sean, and I am joined by Joey Poole.
hello,
And
rabbit
Todd.
hunter extraordinaire.
Howdy.
And Travis.
You guys seen any good pornos lately?
No.
My wife's been out of town for 2 weeks. I'm doing fine.
Who needs them, right?
right, bros?
If you listen to the mini-sode, you know what this episode's about. But if you didn't, we will fill you in. This episode's called Roll It, Review It, and it's inspired by this trend on social media to roll for various things using Dungeons & Dragons type dice and selecting categories and genres and whatnot. And I got the idea, I'm shamelessly just saying, I stole the idea from the YouTuber Good Bad Flicks. And if you haven't ever seen his stuff, he does really good reviews of really bad
is it?
movies. Good Bad Flicks.
Oh, okay. Checkmaster Flicks.
Checkmaster Flicks. So he has been doing that, and I've enjoyed them immensely, and I thought it'd be fun to bring that into the podcast and let us randomly see some films that we might not otherwise watch. I think it's safe to say.
Jesus.
The cruel hand of fate.
I think one of mine I would have gotten around
Mine
to
too. I was gonna
watching
say the same thing.
eventually.
One of mine I would watch.
You,
on my own.
Travis,
The other
though-
one, though, Jesus. We'll get to it.
The dice is a cruel mistress, and I think that it fucks Travis harder than any
hardest
of us.
of all. Yeah, I said I got the worst picks.
So yes, all of these that we're going to be talking about today were randomly assigned, and we were going to give you our feedback and reviews of each of them for better or worse. So we'll do this round robin style as usual, and we'll go through our first picks. You can choose which one you want to go first, and then we'll take a break and come back and do the rest. Joey, I think that you're up first.
Well, the dice was. Do I need to go in order here?
Do what you want.
Okay,
Whatever
I'm
order.
going to talk about the first. I'm going to talk about the better of the two movies
Okay.
here. Both of mine I actually got fairly lucky with the dice. I didn't mind watching either one of mine. But the second one that I rolled went from Criterion to documentary, and then whatever number it was, it ended up being Lynch Oz.
Yeah.
Documentary about David Lynch's fascination, obsession, influenced by The Wizard of Oz. It's actually kind of like 6 mini docs in one. Have you guys seen it?
I have.
You saw it, Todd. It's kind of like 6 mini documentaries in one. There's 6 different directors, filmmakers who kind of weigh in on their take on all the Oz influences and Easter eggs and things like that are found in Lynch's work. John Waters is one of them. Karen Kusama, who did Jennifer's Body, is one of them. David Lowery is there.
If you've ever seen Room 237, the documentary about The Shining and conspiracy theory surrounding that, similar to that. It's not
okay.
Now, these are actually well-known people who pontificate about Oz, but it's kind of a similar sort of setup.
Structurally,
Is each segment by a different director?
Yeah,
Okay.
and their title things like one of them, for instance, the most interesting one to me was called Judy, and I think this was David Lowery's segment, but it's about the way that. And my wife was really into this one because she recently read not an autobiography, but a biography of Judy Garland. And I didn't know this, but Judy Garland's life was just filled with sorrow and tragedy
Drugs.
and all kind of, all the requisite, Hollywood misery. And this I think it was David Lowery was talking about how you can't really watch, if you know that story, you can't really watch Oz without kind of seeing it through the lens of Judy Garland's life. And apparently Lynch himself was very enamored with Judy Garland, I should say, to the point where there's a clip of him on one of the late night shows I guess it was in the 90s. I think it was Jay Leno maybe. And he says he wants to give he doesn't use the word shout out, but he wants to give a shout out to his friend Judy, his special friend Judy. And he kind of is typically Lynchian, very non-forthcoming when they ask him who Judy is, and it's hinted that he was that obsessed with Judy Garland that he kind of kept the idea of her close to him all the time. So I found that interesting. I also like this one because it doesn't have like a laser focus. It is about all the themes and imagery of Oz and how that's influenced Lynch and how it shows up in his work, but it also gets into all sorts of other stuff too. There's a whole little mini segment about the Back to the Future, for instance, and all sorts of other films. And the filmmakers are talking about their own lives and their own work and their own influences, particularly John Waters. So that's the Lynch Oz documentary. It's available on the Criterion Channel, where I watched it after I rolled it. I guess the thing about this that I will take with me is that the desire to rewatch Twin Peaks. Have y'all seen?
I've been thinking about
Yes.
that lately, watching it again.
Well, I watched it when I was a teenager, and I liked it.
Yeah.
But at the time, I think I just was reacting to how weird it was and how cool it was, and how different it was. And I tried to rewatch it again a while back, maybe during the pandemic, and I didn't like it that much. And, I don't say that out loud very often in some rooms, but I wonder if after watching this documentary, I might kind of give it a spin and go through the whole thing with Fire Walk with Me and the new series, which I think I was only vaguely aware
on
existed.
Showtime, yeah.
I'm going to give it another go here soon, I think, as a result of watching this documentary. Check it out if you haven't seen it.
Fun fact, the concept for the film, this one was hard to find any trivia about because it's a pretty straightforward documentary. The concept for the film originates from a response Lynch gave during a Q&A panel at the 2001 New York Film Festival following a screening of his film Mulholland Drive. When asked about the impact of Fleming on him and his work, he said, "There's not a day that goes by that I don't think about The Wizard of Oz."
Yeah, that's quoted in the film too. And you see, like, I don't know how I missed this watching all those Lynch films the first time, but there's a lot of like just direct references to it. The characters will mention that things that they are doing. This happens in 3 or 4 different movies that are of Lynch's movies.
Blue Velvet. I remember
Yeah,
that
they'll
actually.
mention that things that they are doing are reminiscent of Oz, and like just the sheer number of times that like theater curtains show up in his movies, especially with people singing torch songs in front of them. As
He's fond of little people actors and including them. And
Yeah, so there's a lot there, and it gives. I think it's cool because, like I said, it'll give you kind of a lens to watch or rewatch Lynch's movies through.
Thank you for that, Joey. Todd, as I recall, you got double whammied with romance.
Love stories in one case instead of rom. So the first one I'm going to do, I'm going to go in chronological order here. I'm going to begin with my role, which was the Criterion Channel. their Love Stories curated collection, and the film was a 1920 silent film, Daughter of Dawn. What is notable about this film is that it had an all-Native American cast. There were over 300 Comanche and Kiowa tribe members who acted in the film. Another interesting thing about this is that they brought a lot of their own stuff with them, including the teepees and a lot of the other accoutrements was provided by the tribe members themselves. The director of the movie is a guy named Norbert A. Miles, and there's not much notable about him. He didn't do any, this was probably the most notable film he did. An auteur this gentleman was not, as I'll get to in a moment.
I remember thinking when you rolled this one that this is either going to be this really cool, like, uncovered nugget, or it's going to be unwatchable.
Yeah. Well, so this film was to be included in the National Film Registry by the Library of Congress because of its historical importance. And it is historically important because of that element of the Native American cast. There were two others during the silent era, but this was probably the most prominent. Historical, let's make that the key word. This is an important historical document. Is it a good film?
Is
Not
it entertaining?
So much. No, not so much. So the plot is pretty basic. The Comanches, interestingly, play the bad guys, which I think is interesting that actual Comanches were willing to be the bad guys in the movie. There's kind of a couple of different things going on. The main plot centers around this love triangle between Esther Labari that was the name of the actress. I can't remember her character's name off the top of my head, but in any case, she was one of the Kiowa tribe members. But she's at the age where she's supposed to be picking a mate. Her father, who's the chief, basically he's going to let her pick who she wants, but she really wants him to pick this guy, Black Wolf, from the Comanche tribe. But she's in love with this other dude, and so there's this kind of love triangle going on. There's also this whole thing about hunting buffalo, where the Comanches are kind of trying to hoard in on the Kiowas. I don't know how you'd phrase
Hunting
that.
grounds?
Hunting grounds, yeah, that's a good way to put it. There's kind of that subplot going on as well, so there's kind of this friction between the two tribes. There are things that if you describe it as a plot would sound interesting, but the way it unfolds on the screen is... so let me put it to you this way. When I first looked at this film, I was like, oh, a brisk 78 minutes. This will be fine. No, it was not fine. This movie...
Because sometimes those silent movies, especially epics, will stretch out. Yeah.
A perfect example of this, and this happened a few times, where there would be a 1 or 2 sentence dialogue card that would show up and it would stay on the screen for 20 or 25 seconds. But then at other times, a card would stay on there for like 3 seconds. So the editing... this seemed to be sort of a ragtag affair with the making of this film. When they would show these key scenes that are supposed to be kind of cool and fun, they're just standing around moving their mouths, and then the card comes up for 20 seconds. It was hard to watch. Now, the film had been lost for over 90 years, and then the Oklahoma Historical Society actually found it, and so that's how it came back in and got restored in 2012. So it is historically important, but not a particularly enjoyable film. I can't say I recommend it.
Maybe the dice fucked you harder than they fucked Travis.
I don't know. Mine was unwatchable for different reasons.
So I kind of wanted to get that one out of the way because the other one's a little bit better. But
Perfect. Well, thank you for that.
His movie, Daughter of the Dawn, the film was screened in the White House for guess which president?
Woodrow Wilson?
Woodrow Wilson is correct. 1920.
Thank you for that. Was one of my tidbits I forgot to mention. So.
This one was
Thank you,
a
Travis.
real testament to the power of the Roll It Review It Dice, because this is safe to say that this is one that you never
never would have.
And the rest of us probably never would have been aware of.
And now you don't have to watch it because I watched it for you.
Yeah.
And I've told you the important bits. So
Awesome. Thank you for taking another bullet for us. Travis, what you got, man?
I'm going to kind of follow Todd's lead and go with the earlier movie first, but in my case, it's the better of the two movies. This was the Lahia de Frankenstein, a.k.a. Frankenstein's daughter, a.k.a. Lady Frankenstein.
I was a little bit jealous of this pick
from
when you got it, by the way.
1971.
Oh shit! I've seen Lady Frankenstein. I just didn't
Yeah.
know it because of all the different titles. Okay, that's a good movie.
So for whatever reason, it comes up on Tubi under the Spanish title, which translates to "The Daughter of Frankenstein," but the movie is the 1971 Lady Frankenstein.
That's what I know it as. Yeah.
It's an Italian movie, so I don't know why they've got the Spanish title up there anyway. It was directed by Mel Wells and written by Edward De Lorenzo. It stars Rosalba Neri under the pseudonym Sarah Bay, Joseph Cotton, Mickey Hargitay,
okay.
who Mariska's father and husband of Jane Mansfield, and also Paul Mueller. So, perfect. Somewhere in Central Europe in the 1860s, a trio of grave robbers, led by a man named Lynch, deliver a corpse to Baron Frankenstein and his assistant, Dr. Marshall, for obvious reanimation purposes. Baron Frankenstein's daughter, Tanaya, arrives from school, having completed her studies in medicine, and is greeted by her father and his young servant, the handsome but mildly intellectually disabled Thomas. Thomas is kind of a dummy. Tanaya reveals to her father that she's always understood his work with animal transplants to be a cover for his work reanimating corpses, and that she intends to follow in his footsteps. The next day, Frankenstein, Tanaya, and Marshall witness the execution of a criminal who is hanged down a well, and they're like, "Ooh, another body for the picking." They both have an eye towards harvesting the criminal's body for their experimentation, but the fuzz is on to them. Law enforcement agent Captain Harris arrives and harasses Lynch, one of the grave robbers, at the hanging. Harris claims to be on to Lynch's grave robbing. That evening, having harvested salient body parts, Frankenstein and Marshall successfully reanimate the gruesome giant corpse with a scarred, misshapen head. When Marshall goes to tell Tanaya of her father's success, however, this monster bear hugs Frankenstein to death, breaking his back.
It was a pretty creepy looking Frankenstein too, I thought.
Yeah, the big monstrous head. Then walks out of the castle. Tanaya and Marshall report the murder to Harris, but claim that it was a burglar instead, because they don't want anybody to know about the reanimated corpse. Harris points out that according to their description, the burglar would be over 7 feet tall. And that monster was Kristaps Porzingis.
Basketball reference for those of you out there.
The monster, roaming the countryside, comes across a couple having sex out in the open. That's another thing about this movie. It's not shy about sexual references in true Italian style.
Lots of nudity.
And after scaring away the man, picks up the woman who screams and then faints. He names her George and then pets her so
very hard,
aggressively. The monster then carries her to a river and tosses her in. And
I thought he went to Albuquerque.
And when two men later find the body, the monsters kill one by breaking his neck. After Harris questions Lynch, and Lynch refuses Tiana's offer for more grave robbing work, the monster breaks into Lynch's home while he is having sex with a local prostitute and kills Lynch by beating him to death. The monster then kills a local farmer, his wife, and Lynch's two grave robbing friends. The sex worker goes free.
This movie sounds awesome.
It is very. It's
Tanaya
awesome.
then goads Marshall into admitting to harboring romantic feelings for her. She responds to his affections, but says that while Marshall's body is old, she finds Thomas's body young and attractive. The solution, obviously, is to transplant Marshall's brilliant brain into the brain-damaged Thomas's young, healthy body.
As one does.
To accomplish this, Tanaya seduces Thomas into having sex while Marshall secretly watches. End scene. No, and Marshall kills him with a pillow during their lovemaking. Tanaya then successfully transplants Marshall's brain into Thomas's body. Now Thomas speaks with Marshall's voice, and his body has become inhumanly strong as well. Meanwhile, Frankenstein's monster has continued to terrorize the town, and the local villagers, having had enough, arrive with torches and pitchforks in traditional fashion before throwing the monster to the castle. following the monster to the castle. Excuse me. In the chaos, the monster returns, knocks down Harris, and has a fight with Marshall/Thomas. I call him Mamas now. Who cuts off his arm. When the monster bear hugs Marshall Thomas, Tanaya stabs him in the back with a sword, and Marshall Thomas kills him by punching his head open with a metal hand tool. The monster is defeated, and Tanaya has made it clear that she has no allegiance to Marshall. The villagers storm into the castle and set it aflame with hopes of killing the monster. Harris arrives with Thomas's sister Julia to see Tanaya and Marshall Thomas naked and enjoying post-fight sexual intercourse as the castle burns beside them.
This would have made a hell of a good softcore porn.
Yeah.
However, during their lovemaking, Marshall Thomas begins to choke Tanaya as the flames consume them.
Wow.
Because that's her thing.
Yeah.
Lady Frankenstein is awesome. I saw it.
Seriously.
I had years ago. I had one of these 50 DVD horror things. Remember those? And that was one of them on there, and that was how I saw it for the first time.
And it is a super fun watch. My only regret is that I figured being from 1971, there wouldn't be that much sex and nudity in it, and I started to watch it at work. And quickly realized that was a bad idea.
Mistake.
Mr. Allen, a freak.
Yeah.
It is a fun movie.
One has to wonder, like Joseph Cotton, from the Mercury Theater to Lady Frankenstein playing a lech, who doesn't he have a scene with a naked girl in bed or something like that?
Yes. In his analysis of the film, Lewis Paul described the film as, quote, a hybrid of the 70s Hammer horror films, infatuation with nudity and sadism, and the golden age of Italian horrors Gothic period.
Again, sounds awesome. This is probably one of my favorite Frankenstein adaptations.
Yeah, it sounds a lot like the Hammer horror film.
Right,
so
and it felt like that while watching it. Fun fact, it was... Rob Zombie sampled the line, "Who is this irresistible creature who has an insatiable love for the dead?" from the trailer for this movie for his song "Living Dead Girl."
Yep. Very cool. So you got lucky then.
I got lucky on this one, but the other one,
the other one was
completely balances out any of that goodwill.
Man, I wish I'd known it was Lady Frankenstein. I would have rewatched.
I'm gonna go with my
Good
chronological earliest film as well, which was my second role. It was from Amazon. I can't remember what category it fell in, but it's the very well known Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas from 1998. I had not seen this, believe it or not, after all these years. Directed by the great Terry Gilliam, starring Johnny Depp, Benicio del Toro, and a huge cast of cameos. Tobey Maguire, Christina Ricci, Gary Busey, Ellen Barkin, Cameron Diaz, Catherine Hellman, who is also in Brazil, directed by Terry Gilliam, Harry Dean Stanton, Chris Maloney, Mark Harmon, Flea from Red Hot Chili Peppers, as well as Vern Troyer, Mini-Me. Based on the Hunter S. Thompson book by the same name, Raoul Duke, played by Johnny Depp, and his attorney, Dr. Gonzo, played by Benicio del Toro, drive a red convertible across the Mojave Desert to Las Vegas with a suitcase full of drugs, that's an understatement, to cover a motorcycle race. As their consumption of drugs increases at an alarming rate, the Stone duo trash their hotel room, that's an understatement, and fear legal repercussions. Duke begins to drive back to L.A., but after an odd run-in with a cop, played by Gary Busey, he returns to Sin City and continues his wild drug binge.
Yeah, they ruin a couple of hotel rooms.
Yeah, they do. The film had a $18.5 million budget, even though Terry Gilliam really did not know what the budget was while he was shooting the film. They never really told him.
That's the way it works, right?
It made $13.7 million at the box office, so it was considered a failure financially. This film is in development for a long time. Ever since the screenplay was originally written for film, Scorsese was attached to it, Ralph Bakshi was attached to it, Oliver Stone was attached to it at one point.
Thank God he didn't do it.
But they were unsuccessful, and they moved on. Considered for the roles at the various stages of development, Jack Nicholson, Marlon Brando was considered
as Hunter S. Thompson.
Nicholson was considered for Hunter S. Thompson,
or Raoul Duke,
and Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi were considered as a duo for the film. John Malkovich was considered. John Cusack was considered. So,
I would be surprised if Dan Aykroyd took that part because Bill Murray already did it in Where the Buffalo Roam.
right? Yeah.
There are a lot of people I would have preferred to Johnny Depp on that list.
As far as my takeaway of the film, I feel like it could have been trimmed by a good 30 minutes. I found a lot of the scenes repetitive.
Well, it's getting better because you said an hour earlier.
I know. You and I talked about this, and I said maybe an hour is too much. I think maybe half an hour I'd be okay with it. And I think that, and I try to give Terry Gilliam a little bit of grace on this because of a lot of the jerking around that happened from the studio. I felt like it was a little lazy on his part, a lot of Dutch angles to kind of initiate this topsy-turvy kind of aspect of
askewness.
Yeah. And again, I felt it kind of got old after a while, but that just might just be because, like you said, that's the script. That's what they were doing. They were just upping the ante with more and more crazy drugs. It's a wild ride, and visually, it's fun.
Yeah.
I think that it could have been trimmed.
Well, that's why I think that Terry Gilliam was the perfect director for this project, because he already had a catalog of movies that were visually bizarre.
Madcap is the word I would use to describe this film.
Not a lot of movies prior to this had really captured visually the psychedelic experience, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there was a lot of attempts, most of which involving kaleidoscopes.
Yeah.
But this one, the tech was right. Like, the technology had matured enough that they got it pretty good to what it's like to actually be tripping your fucking balls off. Also, I just have nostalgic affection for the movie because you said it came out in 96? 98. Okay, so I was 18, was a young fledgling...
18 in life, you had it?
Fledgling stoner, trying to figure out the world. And I actually, ashamed to admit now, but I shoplifted the book from the local Books A Million.
It's okay if you shoplift books. That just means you're...
Or food,
Yeah, but I definitely made up for it in rentals of the VHS from Blockbuster.
Do you have a fun fact that I didn't cover?
That you did not mention. So you did mention some of the previous picks for director, but they actually had a director working on it that walked away from the project for creative differences. Does anybody know who that was? Joey, he's directed one of your favorite films.
Alex Cox.
That's correct, Alex Cox. Terry Gilliam took over as director after Alex Cox left the picture due to creative differences.
Oh, that makes sense.
Gilliam rewrote the entire screenplay in a few days to fit his unique creative vision and style while staying true to Hunter S. Thompson's writings. So Joey just had to play a game where he wasn't trying to think of his favorite movie, but what Travis might think his favorite movie is.
Alex
Yeah,
Cox
I
could have
don't
done...
know. It's in the top 5.
Alex
still.
Cox definitely could have done a good version of this. Have y'all ever seen Walker? I know everyone's seen Repo Man, but
I have,
Walker?
with Ed Harris.
That is an interesting
it's the
movie.
prequel to his character from the Robot TV show, Future World.
Really?
Oh,
Or are you just making it
Westworld.
up?
Oh, Westworld.
Westworld, the Man in Black from
Oh,
Westworld.
yeah,
It's very
yeah.
similar to his character.
It is, yeah. That's an interesting movie. It's not perfect, but...
Future World, you know?
Yeah. All right, so we've covered our better picks out of our 2. I think we're all going with the
No, my
yeah.
better one's not. I did
Mine's the better
chronological.
one, but I did chronological as well.
yeah.
I
I
wanted to
think
get this-
my worst one's coming up in the second half.
Mine's the better objective film, but I had a really good time watching the second
Okay,
pick.
well
so-
then,
I think it
yeah.
makes for better podcasting if the second one's the stinker.
Yeah, exactly. So stick around because when we come back from intermission, we will tackle the back half. But not before we say, let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby and get ourselves some
Rolos.
That's what I was going to say.
Ah, good one.
Yum, yum. It's time for a tasty and refreshing snack. We promise to satisfy your hunger, your thirst, your sweet tooth. So visit our refreshment center now. Let's go.
And we're back. I was the only one who peed in the yard. You guys are going to be regretting it later, because I'm going to go full 20 minutes on my last review.
Oh, wow.
All right, so we're on the back half.
I was scared to get a lightning strike on my
Yeah,
wheelie.
we've got thunderstorms in the area again.
I'm done with my Frankenstein synopsis, so the lightning and thunder should let up a little.
It seems to have passed as soon as you finished. All right, Joey, you're up with your second film.
So this one, as soon as I kind of groaned, as soon as I found out what my role was going to be on this one, but I ended up enjoying the hell out of this movie. I'm not going to say it's a great movie. I rolled via Tubi. I rolled something called Avenging Angelo.
Uh-huh. Sly Stallone, right?
Yeah, 2002, starring Stallone and Madeline Stowe and Anthony Quinn. So it's actually
love Madeline Stowe.
Directed by Martin Burke, who probably has not done anything else that you've seen. He's got other movies of a similar ilk. I didn't know this, but apparently, what do we call this? We call this the aughts.
What?
The early part of the 21st century.
Yeah, the
turn of the
aughts.
century sounds
01,
wrong
03,
to me.
07.
Yeah. So apparently in the aughts, Sly Stallone went through a rough patch in his career and did a handful of direct-to-video movies.
Yeah, this
of
one
which
never came out in theaters.
Yeah, this one is, I believe, the third of those.
Okay.
And it features Anthony Quinn as a mob boss. Sly Stallone's character is Angelo, is Angelo's bodyguard, and he's basically kind of like a son to this guy. And he has a secret daughter, played by Madeline Stowe, who does not know that he's her mom, but he kind of watches her from afar and bankrolls her life and whatnot. Within the first few minutes of the movie, in the first act, Anthony Quinn's character, Angelo, gets gunned down by a rival crime family, and with his dying breath, he entreats I can't remember Sly Stallone's character's name off the top of my head. Johnny, I believe it is. He entreats Sly Stallone's character to watch over his daughter from afar and guide her life. And his daughter, played by Madeline Stowe, I don't think I'm ruining anything here. She's in a rocky marriage. And she's
marriage.
She's yes.
Was it Johnny Rambo?
No, it was not. No, yeah. It's the Stallone here is a
Johnny
far cry
Cobra.
from Rambo. She is infatuated. She finds out her husband's cheating on her earlier in a pretty hilarious scene, actually. But then she kind of has this fantasy lover as this romance writer that she's infatuated with, and they kind of start dating. But Stallone is kind of watching out for her, and he gets a lot kind of in a love triangle with this thing. I don't think I'm going to be spoiling anything here by saying, cause if you've seen a movie or two in your life, you know within the first 15 minutes that Stallone and Madeline Stowe's characters are going to end up together, right? So it hits every single beat that you think it's going to hit as a romantic comedy influenced by crime, by way of crime drama. And this thing feels very much like a Hallmark movie aimed at dudes.
Yeah.
Because the production values scream Hallmark Channel. It's direct-to-video. And the writing is not inspired in any way. The dialogue and just the general writing of the movie. It's not inspired. It's not transcendently good. But it's sturdy. And it hits every beat that it needs to hit, to have that, that very satisfying formulaic plot. My wife and I watched this movie together the night after I rolled it, actually. We had to split a bottle of wine and then stop the movie halfway through to go to Food Lion for a second bottle of wine.
I thought you were going to say something else.
Nah, I won't get into that part of it.
I remember having a wine.
It's only been 2 weeks, Travis. I'm not going to say this is a great movie. I am going to say that Wine Drunk Joey enjoyed the hell out of it. And we cracked on it a little bit here and there, but it wasn't like a Mystery Science Theater kind of vibe. It was, the movie is laughable, but it is what it is. It like I said, it hits every very satisfying beat that you want it to.
Yeah.
And it does so. It delivers some laughs and some real intrigue along the way, even as you know exactly what's going to unfold as it's unfolding. Not a great movie, but a very, very enjoyable, memorable one on the night that I watched it. So all in all, I would say that the dice did me pretty good here. The Lynch,
I think you came out pretty good.
yeah,
I
the
think you won.
The Lynch Oz documentary, I probably would have gotten around to watching that at some point anyway. And this one probably would have gone to my grave without seeing it, but it could have been a whole lot worse, as we're definitely going to find out when we get around to Travis here in a few minutes.
Did Madeline Stowe show those nips?
No, like this was no.
'Cause
This
sometimes
was
she does.
very, very. This could have aired on the Hallmark Channel.
She, so China Moon, I think, and also Unlawful Entry. I'm gonna stow away in those titties.
This was no. This was decidedly more chaste.
Okay.
I do have a fun fact. Not that I want to stow away in her titties. So you mentioned Anthony Quinn, Aidan Quinn's father, obviously.
Yes.
Not really, but speaking of that, he plays Madeline Stowe's father in the movie. Previously, in 1990, in the film Revenge, Quinn and Stowe played husband and wife.
Oh,
Now, obviously, he was her older husband. in
Sure.
Much
Revenge.
older, if
Yeah.
this were wow.
So, there's that.
I
Well-
will say there is a scene in here where when she finds out that that's her dad, and then she gets in her mind that she wants to avenge the guy that killed him, and he's like this elderly kind of mob boss with emphysema, and it's implied that she literally fucks him to death.
Oh, wow.
That's how she does the hit. It happens off camera, and maybe she was like,
believable.
she was just too much for his old heart. You know,
Yeah.
he gave out.
she's a fuck machine.
So yeah, and maybe she just was doing the striptease or whatever, and then he died of excitement. But it's implied, I think,
Yeah.
if you watch carefully, that she fucks him to death.
I love it.
All right, Todd, you're up, man.
All right. So for this one, I rolled prime romance rather than love stories. And the film I got was 2016's Passengers, which a movie that was completely off my radar. I completely missed this one. It stars Jennifer Lawrence and Chris Pratt. And the director is a Norwegian director, Morten Tildum, who was actually nominated for Best Director, the Academy Award for Best Director in 2014 for the Imitation Game, which I have not seen. But
Well, that's a good
It's a
one.
good movie.
Yeah.
okay. And so the entire of the film is set on the Avalon, which is a sleeper ship. So a sleeper ship in the parlance of sci-fi means a ship that it takes a long time to get across the galaxy and the universe to different planets and things like that. And so people on these ships are put in, I guess you'd call it suspended animation, so that they can wake up and make the long journey. So on the Avalon, there are 5,000 passengers who are leaving Earth to go to this planet to colonize it, because Earth is in the process of ecocide, basically. There's not a lot talked about that element of it,
Right.
so we don't know exactly what's going on. But in any case, the entire film takes place on the Avalon. And at the beginning of the movie, everyone's in suspended animation. The spaceship has an accident. I think it was an asteroid or something. It ran into something. And then the pods are, it's almost like the Titanic. The pods are supposed to be foolproof. They're not supposed to shake the person out of, or wake the person up. Well, Chris Pratt's character, Jim, who is a mechanical engineer, wakes up. For over a year, he lives on the ship with no companionship, by himself, other than an android bartender, who is played by Michael Sheen.
And it's supposed to be like the bartender in The Shining.
Yeah.
That's what I thought when
That's
I
the
first
vibe
saw it,
I
yeah.
got from the trailer.
Yep, and Michael Sheen's good in that role.
Yes.
And he's an android, so he kind of has to be trained to. Chris Pratt has to convince him that he actually woke up. He says, "Well, it's not possible that you woke up," and I'm like, "Well, here I am.
Yeah.
Where is everybody else?" Eventually, as Chris Pratt is, he tries to entertain. He tries to figure out ways to. There's the command pod, and he spends lots of time trying to get in this command pod, and he's never able to do it. Tries a variety of other things as well. Tries to entertain himself at times. Starting to lose his mind. At one point, he comes across a pod and sees the lovely Jennifer Lawrence, who is Aurora, a journalist. And the way he finds out information about her is they have diaries, essentially, or interviews, I guess you would say, from the people who were accepted on the Avalon. And so what he finds out about her just makes him kind of fall in love with her. She's a journalist whose plan is to go the 120 years that it takes to get to this new settlement, spend 1 year there, write about it, then go back to Earth. So essentially spend 250 years in suspended animation, which says a lot about her character, of course. This is where the movie gets kind of interesting, because this philosophical dilemma gets presented, because this man is, Chris Pratt's character, Jim, is desperately lonely. And he's fallen in love with this woman, and he's a mechanical engineer, so he knows how he can bust open this pod. And he talks about it with the bartender android. Long story short, he ends up breaking her out, which obviously one could argue is murder, because this is a 120-year trip. There's 90 years left. This means that they're going to be dead.
Yeah.
It's almost like murder. And in fact, she accuses him this later in the movie. Now, of course, he doesn't confess to this, and so there's another year where they start getting to know each other and dating and falling in love and
But she
getting it
doesn't know
on.
that
Yeah,
she doesn't know.
Yeah, there's a lie that
Yep.
he's told her. Yes.
Which makes everything feel creepy.
Yes.
His good buddy bartender, though, slips up. Because he's an android, he's a literalist. And Jim had told him, please don't tell Aurora that I did that. I'll tell her myself eventually. Well, the three of them were having some conversation, and I can't remember what the exact words were, but Jim said something that wasn't meant to be taken literally related to that the robot assumed meant that Aurora knew about it. And so then he makes comments that let the cat out of the bag.
Awkward.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Needless to say, as probably most people would be, she was
She's pissed.
A little
very
upset.
pissed.
Yeah.
Um,
Women, am I
and-
right?
and
Right,
they
guys?
Yep.
Rose, you hear me.
and they separate for a while. Now, up until this point, I'm kind of digging this movie because I like this philosophical problem. Now, here's where it loses me a bit. I hate convenient plot twists.
Okay.
Because-
Everybody wakes up.
One of the shipmates, I can't remember if he was. I don't think he was the captain, but he had some role in the ship. Lawrence Fishburne's character wakes up. Something wakes him up, and then it turns out that the accident that woke up Chris Pratt, Jim originally, is actually slowly causing a malfunctioning of the ship, and it's going to eventually lead to everyone dying. Now we have our redemption opportunity by sheer convenience.
Right.
Yeah.
And the rest of the
Deus
movie,
Ex Machina.
yeah. And so
very
the rest
much
of the
so.
movie, I think you can probably guess where it's going from there, right? Just to say that was a disappointing moment. I'm like, come on, that's
Right.
just a convenient little. It would have been much.
And
I
you're
would have
supposed
loved to see.
assume that she forgives him because he's the hero
Because
in
he
this
he
scenario.
saves everyone, and also if he hadn't woken her up, they all needed each other to pull
Yeah.
off what they pull off to save the ship.
Uh-huh.
If it had just been him, it wouldn't have worked.
So now it's
So
just going
then-
to be the three of them?
Well, I don't know how much we'll give it. Lawrence Fishburne's character, it turns out, has a variety of ailments that have been caused from something that went wrong with the pods, and so he ends up dying. And so it leaves Chris Pratt's character and Aurora, Jim and Aurora, together. And then eventually, of course, she does forgive him. And there's a moment where this is another thing. It's like there is a lot of Titanic parallels here,
God,
because
Todd,
there is a
Titanic.
Dude,
moment
give it
where
up.
there is a moment where Rose is on the door thingy and he's in there.
Uh-huh.
So Jim's figured out a way where one of them can get back in the pod.
Uh-huh.
Well, neither of them go back in the pod, and so they fast forward. I'll just give it all away if anyone doesn't want to hear At the end of the movie, the ship makes it to its destination, and it turns out that she didn't go into the pod, that they just lived 90 years happily together. The ship or the passengers wake up, they walk out, and they've created this lush garden and built all these houses and things in the spaceship, and it would have been a much more interesting movie if Jim has to try to redeem himself without that convenient plot twist. What if all it is they're just going to live on the ship and that's it?
Yep.
Now what?
I find it kind of lame that they named her Aurora,
Yeah.
which is Sleeping Beauty.
Oh.
So I like the film. Okay.
Little low hanging fruit there.
Well, is that's the Princess and Sleeping Beauty's
Yeah,
name?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I like the film. Okay, I mean it's entertaining enough. It did make $300 million at the box office. Although it's hard to say. The math on this is
$300 million?
But it cost
Globally?
It costs like $120 million to make. So
still, that's a win.
yeah,
But you've also got Chris Pratt and Jennifer Lawrence pretty much at the height of their
Yeah,
powers.
Yeah.
big paycheck for
He's
them.
coming off of
And
his first stint as Star-Lord.
Yeah.
And she's finished up the Hunger Games.
yep. And to their credit, they have good chemistry. They both give good performances.
Yeah.
I just didn't like the convenient little plot twist. But in
Agreed.
any case,
Fun fact, the film was screened at the White House for President Woodrow Wilson.
What?
The voice of the starship Avalon, belongs to voiceover artist Emma Clark, who is also the voice of the iconic Mind the Gap voice on the London Underground, or their subway.
Oh, cool. Well, Travis, I think you're up with the winner of the night.
First of all, fuck you. Fuck those dice. Fuck this movie. This movie is terrible.
I remember when you rolled it, and I think Sean read
Yeah.
the synopsis of it. I was like, "Oh God, thank God I didn't roll
Yeah.
that."
And so a lot like your movie, Joey, it reads like a Hallmark movie. It's got that level of cheesiness and like production value. So keep that in mind. We are talking about 2017's Trash Fire, Breaking Legs.
wow, you couldn't even remember the
Legs.
name.
It sounds like a
Even the
mafia
title.
movie. It's like
Yeah.
a mafia movie, right?
Obviously, you want to name a movie about teenage dancers breaking legs because they go all Tanya Harding on each other. Basically, it's Footloose meets Mean Girls because freshman Bloom moves to a town where there's no place to dance except the school dance team. But when the boyfriend of the team's lead girl falls for her, she'll have to fight to win her place amongst these venomous girls. Breaking Legs is sure to make you kick your boots off and pull up your heels as these kids dance the field away to compete for homecoming crown at R. Murray High School.
They have to dance for homecoming
yes,
queen?
There's a dance off.
It's
All
a
right,
dance
so this girl comes to town and her mother has passed away, so she's got a single father who's drunk all the time.
Of course.
And she wants to dance, and the only place to dance is the high school dance team. But there's already this like queen bee type on the dance squad who doesn't want any newcomers, let alone this out-of-town girl who might be better than her. And to make matters worse, her the queen bee's boyfriend starts to take a liking to Bloom. All right.
Let me interject here
Go
for
ahead.
just 1 second. There are some genres of films that, like, the D-list can do well. And it will turn out something that, even if it's bad, it's
Yeah.
bad in an entertaining way.
This is not that.
I don't think that, like, the high school musical drama is one that you can go past, say, B-list or so and still have, like, a decent film.
So the boyfriend's name is Herbie. He's the boyfriend of high school dance team captain Harmony. Soon their friendship blossoms and Harmony becomes so jealous that Bloom has just stole her boyfriend. Jealous and bitter, Harmony doesn't allow Bloom to join her dance team.
Not
Bloom
harmonious
must
at
now
all.
show off her dancing chops during homecoming in order to prove her skills to the whole school. So, yeah, in this scenario, homecoming queen is determined by a dance-off
As it should be, frankly.
between the members of the homecoming court, the girls on the homecoming court. But little does Bloom know that Harmony has arranged for what appears to be a bucket of shit to be on one of the homecoming
It's a metaphor
floats.
They
for
went
the
full on
movie.
Carrie with
Yes.
it? Wow.
Yes, and is on the float, one of the homecoming floats, and just after Bloom does her kick-ass dance routine, and obviously everybody's going to vote for her for homecoming queen, oops, Harmony spills the bucket of shit all over Bloom's
It becomes
head.
a literal shit show.
Yes.
Why would that change anyone's vote?
Right. And so, according to the description, she wins over the hearts and minds of the students and the faculty and becomes homecoming queen. And you would think that would be the appropriate way to tie things up. However, in the movie, that doesn't happen. In the movie, she's out there covered in shit. Everybody in the stands starts to laugh at her. She runs off, gets in the car with her dad. They see fireworks, and they drive away. Now, and actually, the dance instructor says there's a spot open on the dance team. Do you want it? And her and her dad are both like, no. And then she decides she's going to move away and go to dance school, and maybe dad should come with her because he's sober now.
Wow.
They don't resolve who the homecoming queen is, or like she still has shit all over her when
As
she's
if the
in the
title
car
doesn't
driving
mean
away.
anything at all.
It's so awful. The only saving grace to my experience watching this movie is that I did watch it on Michelle's account on I watched
her
it on
algorithm up rather than
Amazon
yours.
Prime. Well, I didn't want to watch this movie by myself in the first place.
And get
It
put
felt
on a list.
creepy and wrong. And unfortunately, Michelle's stay, my lovely wife Michelle,
Drink.
her stay in Charleston has been a little bit longer than anticipated, and I ended up having to bite the bullet and watching this by myself. And boy, oh boy, I was the big loser this week, you guys.
Was Max with you though?
Were your pets looking at you weird the whole time?
Yeah, they were like, "What the fuck?"
Yep, that's the worst feeling.
My fun fact is
Oh,
that
go ahead.
this movie actually won an award.
What?
It won the 2016 Young Entertainer Award for Best Teen Ensemble Cast in a Feature Film.
That sounds like some bullshit.
It did have a couple of famous people in it. Chris Kattan is one of the teachers.
Oh, is he famous?
And the Jump to Conclusions guy from
desperate for-
Office
Richard
Space.
Reel or
He's-
Robert
yes,
Reel
Yeah,
or-
he's the principal of the school.
No, that's a good role for him.
Yeah.
I didn't do much better than you. I rolled anime on Tubi,
But it's not.
and it's not. Well, it is a live
I honestly
action.
think that it would have been perfectly fine if you had bowed out of this one.
No,
considering
It's a
I-
it wasn't
live-action
actual.
adaptation of an anime, TV series
that is based on a manga. So
Yes.
this was my idea to do this episode, so
trooper.
I am going to do these movies as destiny
I have to
dictates.
say that you're about to read the synopsis, I'm assuming, and based on the synopsis, this sounds amazing.
All right, so the name of the film is Gintama from 2017. It's directed by Yuichi Fukuda. Well, fuck you too. Starring Shun Orgori, Ria Yashikawa, and Kana Hashimoto. I think I
Well
did
done.
okay there. A young, unemployed samurai searches for work in a feudal Tokyo ruled by alien invaders.
Nice.
A master swordsman asks the samurai and his friends to keep the cursed sword Benezakura from falling into the wrong hands. Yorozuya, the main character, receives two similar and ultimately connected jobs. Elizabeth needs odd jobs to find Katsura, and a swordsmith needs the crew to find a dangerous sword named Benzakura, as we mentioned. There is more to both requests than Gintaki and his friends thought. That made no sense to me whatsoever. And the same goes for the film. The movie looked like a furry convention. Because you had these alien characters that showed up in like background, and their masks looked very like cosplay.
Yeah.
And that was off-putting. There were a lot of nods to the camera. There were a lot of obviously rushed introduction of the characters that made it feel like I should have been watching the animated version all
was made for
along.
fans.
This is all fan service.
That's disappointing because you had me at samurai and aliens.
Versus aliens.
Well,
yeah.
and the aliens don't play a big part of this. And the biggest takeaway is that because of the alien rulers, swords have been outlawed. Yet almost everyone in the storyline has a sword. Now,
Just like what happened with guns, but
exactly. That's right. Don't take away our guns because only the criminals.
Samurai swords don't kill aliens.
Yeah,
People
something
with
like that.
samurai swords
All right,
kill
so
aliens.
here's something for you. This thing had a total box office gross in Asia of $47 million US.
That is indeed gross.
It's a lot. It also spawned a sequel, Gintama 2, The Law is Surely There to Be Broken.
Pop culture sensibilities in Japan are a little strange. Sometimes in a good way.
Yeah, there are some oddities in this film. The girl in the trio, this is awful. She can't say no to food. Like, she's a glutton, but she's not obese or anything. But I was like, why would they do that? And
not too tempopo, perhaps.
no. And then there was a character in the film. This is really weird. There's a character in the film. He's a pedophile, and the girl who can't say no to food was captured at one point, and he was clearly hot for her. And this other female antagonist was like berating him, like going, "Dude, that's gross." He goes, "But I'm a feminist," as if that somehow
Weird.
justified his pedophilia.
That's strange.
I don't understand that. Anyway, so yeah, the main bad guy, he had this sword that was possessed. It had this purple energy, and they fought, and they won. I mean, that's all you really need to know about this. I don't understand it. I've watched my share of anime through the years, and this seemed kind of silly, and the tone was, like I said, the tone was a lot of nodding to the camera, breaking the fourth wall. They even start the movie out one way and stop and say to the camera, "No, wait, let's do that again," and reset the whole film and reintroduce the characters. And so it's very silly, very lighthearted. And
I heard that a lot of fans of the original anime were disappointed that they chose to omit the tentacle porn
oh yeah,
aspect of the story.
Tell us more about that.
Well,
so Travis has been watching teen dramas and tentacle porn since Michelle's been gone.
Okay.
it's got to do what a man's
Your algorithm's going to be crazy.
Hashtag tentacle porn. That's going to get us all the views and all the listens. Anyway, this was a complete waste of time. It was 2 hours and 10 minutes long.
Oh,
And it was quite the slog to get through this because I didn't have the context of the backstory. I wasn't a fan of the anime or the manga. Therefore, this live-action film had really no interest to me whatsoever.
So it wasn't a film that had pity on someone who had not seen the original.
Exactly. You had to be a fan of this
Like a
anime
Marvel movie.
to
Or
be.
most Marvel movies.
Yeah. You had to be a fan because this thing hits the ground running, and you're expected to be accepting of the scenario and the sensibility of the film. Otherwise, you're completely lost, which I was. So, yeah, I cannot recommend this film. This is the worst of my two roles. It was a pain. But that said, I would be glad to do this episode again.
I was going to say the same thing. I think that, like,
It's a fun exercise.
Yeah.
yeah, I would be down with doing this several times a year or whatever. You know,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
like
Just to break things up.
when we don't have a real topic in mind.
Yeah.
Because the dice giveth and the dice taketh
taketh away.
away. And, you know,
Travis, do you have a fun
totally
fact?
random.
Yeah, Yuichi Fukuda, that's the director, cites Mary Poppins from 1964 as an influence on the film's design, saying that it had unrealized VFX which worked in making the film look like a live-action fantasy.
Okay, I can see
Oh,
that.
excuse me, unrealistic
Yeah,
VFX.
yeah. There were some things, like I said, the cosplay aspect of it. There were some sequences that looked. It's like they faithfully tried to take animated sequences and make them live action. So there was some stuff that just didn't look real in terms of what we expect real live action to look like. So yeah, I mean, if that's your jam, then you might have enjoyed it. But I did not. I can't recommend this at all. So that's it. That's the Roll It Review It. I'm glad to know that you might want to do this again just to test it out further down the road after the sting and the burn wears
it can
off.
only get better for me, right?
Right? All right. Our next episode is going to be Fucked Up Disney. There's a period of time in the late 70s, early 80s where Disney lost its way and really got crazy and strange and weird with all the films that they were releasing. So we're going to talk about those at the next episode. Please subscribe, rate, review. Check us out on social media. We are Cinema Chop Shop everywhere except for YouTube and Blue Sky, where we're Cinema Chop Shop Podcast. Tell your friends about us. 4th of July weekend's coming up. Family time. Love your family. Tell them you love them. And be nice to everybody. And in the meantime, please remember to watch, shop, retrofit.